And the Father says to Jesus, "But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us." Everything is possible for one who believes, because Jesus is saying to him, he has to believe. Jesus already knows it's already done. But he has to be just like you have to believe that for every single negative that comes your way, you know that, no, this is not what I want for myself, that you can actually shift this.
You just got to believe. Look ahead and you will see a new beginning.
Hello, I'm Kellie Cadogan, vocal life coach, and welcome to the Down to Earth podcast. I'm looking forward to share with you all that God has in store for you today. Hi there. Have you ever thought about what stops you from believing? Well, sometimes it's our environment. Sometimes it's what we say about ourselves. Sometimes it's what we allow ourselves to believe, what others are saying about us. So it's not only internal voices, but it's also the external voices that are taking place. But it's also too that when we know of God, but we don't know what God's word says about us and for us, right? And when we put all these dynamics together, we have choices that we need to make, decisions that we need to make within our lives. Where are you in your life today with relation to these elements and what things that you do believe? My recommendation always is to ask yourself the question of, what does God say about me? What does God's word says about my situations and my circumstances? Jesus says, which I think is always so amazing, is that in Mark chapter 9, verse 24, Jesus heals the boy who's possessed by an impure spirit. And the Father says to Jesus, "But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us." I'm going to repeat it again for you. He says to Jesus, "But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us." If you can, said Jesus, everything is possible for one who believes. Immediately the boy's father exclaimed, "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." And we would have spoken about unbelief before, but I want to remind you that sometimes our unbelief in a lot of times is rooted in our environment, is rooted in our conversation. It is rooted in what we were taught when we were growing up. The thing that our mother, our father, our teachers would have said to us concerning things that we were excited about, whether it be your dream job or the thing that you really wanted to buy or the places you wanted to go or to travel. But because of their fear, sometimes what will happen, their fear projects on us, and then we start getting into the place or the posture of not believing for abundance. And the abundance is just not financial abundance, but it's also as it relates to health. Therefore, for example, diabetes. Sometimes many families within the Caribbean are plagued with diabetes. So because you grew up in an environment with people who are diabetic, the conversations that are happening all the time is saying, "Oh no, if you do this, this is going to happen." And that's, yes, if you do eat that particular food, these things can happen. But you also have a choice that you can say, "No, I believe that this will not happen to me. And I'm going to make these changes and these adjustments that this shall not happen to me." So then we start to say things, "Oh, it runs in my family." No, you can break that. You don't need to have that over your life. So the element of unbelief happens so often in our environment. So I'm going to ask you this question. Question yourself again. What are the things being said to me that goes against what God has said about me and about my circumstances and about the dreams that He has given to me? And you don't have to be an adult. You could be a child listening to this podcast and can understand that, you know what? These are the things that I believe God is saying for me to do. But all of the other people around you are saying, no, I don't believe. You cannot get that done. You can't do this. No. Then when those things start happening, it starts to put us into a place of unbelief. And therefore, the more you position yourself around unbelief and you allow it to seep into your being, then after a while, you don't know how to believe. And maybe you're in your 30s and in your 40s and you are struggling to believe because you spent so long hearing all of the things that is associated with not believing in things that can happen, like the good things that can happen for you. That you're so accustomed to hearing the bad things that can happen, you don't know what it feels like to feel good or to experience goodness or to experience blessings. You can change that. Start shifting your company, evaluate your company, and start getting into God's word and seeing what his word says about you concerning believing. Because if the man said, but if you can, and this is Jesus, you go to Jesus and you say, Jesus, I have an issue with my unbelief. Heal me from this unbelief. And just believe. Because Jesus said, if you can, meaning are you seriously talking? I am Jesus. If you can, no. Everything is possible for one who believes, because Jesus is saying to him, he has to believe. Jesus already knows it's already done. But he has to believe, just like you have to believe that for every single negative that comes your way, you know that, no, this is not what I want for myself, that you can actually shift this, that you can believe it. So remember that everything is possible for one who believes. And that's Mark chapter 9, verse 24. And our word for this particular part of the podcast is Mark chapter 5, verse 36, when Jesus says, don't be afraid, because the people are going to come around you and tell you that, and that creates the limitations. We don't want the limitations, right? So remember that God and Jesus already knew that those are the people that were going to say to Jairus, the girl cannot be raised, she's already dead. And Jesus says to him, don't be afraid, which means another translation said, don't listen to them. Just believe. So I know that you can get this done. I believe that you can get this done. I believe that you know what are the things. And sometimes it's a little hard. Sometimes it takes walking away. Sometimes it takes cutting away. Sometimes it takes some pruning. But you have it because God has an abundant life that he wants for you. But you have to start shifting how you think about yourself and how you see yourself and what spaces you place yourself in. So it's my prayer for you today to start walking into a place of belief by changing what it is you are speaking over yourself, what you are thinking about yourself, and start to root up and to take out those things which are not beneficial to you. So I thank you so much for being here with me for the Down to Earth podcast. It's been a pleasure sharing this part of the podcast with you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Have a beautiful day.
As the day turns into night and you're by yourself and you feel like there's no